The political opposition in Uganda is in a crisis. The Forum for Democratic Change Party has split. The Justice Forum JEMA is struggling. The Democratic Party's future is uncertain. The Uganda People's Congress is limping. And the National Unity Platform faces internal divisions. Amidst this, the People's Front for Freedom has emerged. Is it a game changer or just another source of division? As we approach the 2026 general election, we must ask whether this is a natural political evolution or if President Museveni's prediction of no opposition by 2026 is becoming a reality. What will it take us to have a peaceful election? We also discuss the persecution of opposition politicians and members, and indeed the rising election-related violence. What does it mean for Uganda's future? Join me on this episode of The Hard Questions as I host seasoned politician and the promoter of the People's Front for Freedom, the Honorable Proscovia Salaam Musumba. Thank you very much for joining us, Honorable Salam Musumba, for the show.
Thank you very much, Solomon. I'm glad to be here. This is a show that I love, and I'm sure very interesting to that.
Honorable Musumba, let's get right into it. The opposition appears to be so fragmented, and this clearly falls into the playbook of President Museveni, who said that there will not be any opposition by 2026. As we approach the 2026 general election, what does this mean for the opposition in Uganda?
There is growing opposition in the country, and there's every effort to organize this opposition. The big challenge we have as a country is whether we have an organized opposition or a disorganized opposition. But yes, the opposition to President Museveni's leadership and to his party, and within his party, is growing. And so the duty falls on us to organize.
But are you really organized?
We are. As President Museveni disorganizes, we are organizing and reorganizing.
I don't think you are organized. Because the People's Front for Freedom just broke away from FDC.
Yes.
UPC is in its different, it's limping, for lack of a better word.
It's on political sphere.
The National Unity Platform, of course, we know what happened to Matthias Mpuga.
Yes.
And his fallout with the party. He went ahead to form his own. We're looking at JEMA internal rumbles. We are looking at the Democratic Party, its leadership. You know what's going on.
Are you looking at the NRM as well?
But the NRM is there, but on this show, I wanted to focus on the opposition in Uganda. Do you call that organized?
Yes, it is organized. Not very well organized. But you should be asking for the common thread. What is the common thread within all these opposition parties, or the parties in the opposition? The common thread is that they have failed to transcend individuals, and they have failed to recognize the different aspects, the different opportunities that each of us brings to it. And so the friction grows at the point where people fail to manage their own ambition and to manage their own success. So it is an individual failure and it's an organizational failure, which we are all working hard at. And so from individual failure, it's for a person to feel bigger than the party, bigger than the organization, or a person failing, an individual failing to manage their own ambition and how to use that ambition to grow the organization that will achieve that ambition in a mutual way. Organizationally, we have never had a successful political party organization in this country since independence. Mm-hmm. And so the duty still falls back to us to organize and nip in all these bugs that distract the growing of an organization. But also the Political Parties and Organizations Act limits ways in which a party can grow and develop and reach out to the entire country. The inbuilt impediments are within the law that forms the parties. You can't form a coalition. You can't form. You can't coalesce together. There's so many things. You cannot fundraise. You cannot run an organization in a given way. There are so many impediments to the internal cohesion and the internal growth of a party.
Maybe we should start there.
Yes.
And rightfully so, because I wanted this episode to, go beyond just the surface and get deeper.
Yes.
Let's talk about, the multi-party dispensation was supposed to create parties that would compete for elective politics.
Yes. And national in nature.
And national in nature.
And engendered, and also not based on religion.
Exactly. So political parties started to be formed. But many of these political parties have started to split, which some people may argue intrigue, selfishness, and especially for its leaders. And you've talked about it, that political parties in Uganda have failed to grow these organizations to be very strong.
To be versatile entities. Political entities.
But rather they use them as drivers to get their personal benefits. Talk to us about why have we failed to grow and nurture political parties in Uganda?
The failure initially was historical. The way political parties are birthed. In history, the Uganda People's Congress and the Democratic Party and Conservative Party were responding to different political interests. The political interests of DP, the Democratic Party, was that people that were not Protestant were being marginalized. And so they came together largely as Catholic and Muslim to find a political home and a political platform in which to advance their political interests. So that's why initially you would find the categorization of Protestants in Uganda People's Congress and Catholics and Muslims in the Democratic Party. Fast forward, and then the Conservative Party was dealing with the federalism and making sure that the constituent parts that made Uganda find a voice. Because Uganda became Uganda after 15 regions agreed to unite. And so that voice was getting lost, and that voice continually gets lost. So the Conservative Party was meeting that political interest. Mm-hmm. Now, after that, when they were all disbanded, they were not allowed to grow. They were suffocated. They were broken. They were vandalized. And so we under Idi Amin and post-Idi Amin, the country suffered from suffocation of political interests and how to pursue those political interests on the table. Many interests are pursued under the table. And that's not the purpose of a political party. All the political interests must be on the table. Now, fast forward after the 1995 Constitution, that also reluctantly gave back multipartyism to the nation, reluctantly, did not allow that even to grow or even to start properly. When you look in our history, the way we formed Forum for Democratic Change, it was at gunpoint. We were hassling with a government that said you cannot take political action other than the movement system of governance beyond Kampala. Kampala is not Uganda. And so even the birthing of the political party called Forum for Democratic Change was in distress. Just like the People's Front for Freedom is also going to start in distress. The reinstatement of DP and UPC, the oldest parties, was also in distress. And so the only political organization that seems to be enjoying the free space is what mutated between the movement system and the National Resistance Movement party now. And so you see fraud political fraud within all these entities that are being formed, taking undue advantage of a nation by turning a movement system into a multi-party party called NRM. And so fraud is the underbelly for forming the NRM party. Now, the other parties have to deal with the majority party that has taken away all the political space. So as we create the new entities, political entities, it is to respond to a political environment as it obtains at that time. And so we have not been born naturally. We are by cesarean section, some by forceps, and some by all sorts of
Be
things.
it as it may, when for example, the Forum for Democratic Change Party was formed and the NRM went into grassroots mobilization. They started to do all their campaigns.
They stopped everybody else from doing so.
And
I hope you remember how Sevagala would be chased in the countryside, and how Dr. Besigye, the promoter of Forum for Democratic Change, had to be arrested.
Hear you, but also FDC at that time, Dr. Kizza Besigye went and started to, galvanize for support, promoted FDC across the country. FDC became a formidable force that Ugandans really resonated with.
Yes, and it responded to the political needs of the time.
Yes, and we used to go, one Uganda, one people.
Yes.
That became the slogan.
Yes.
So many people left the NRM, joined the FDC.
Left other parties, DP.
And it became stronger. We saw the FDC, which had become stronger and stronger and stronger at the time. Along the way, everything started to get dismantled. And this is the same thing that we saw with the Democratic Party at the time and UPC, the divisions within the political parties. Everything started to be broken, fall apart.
Yeah.
And that certainly is good news to the National Resistance Movement Party. My question is, from the history you've given us, we would have hoped that the leaders within these opposition political parties, for the purpose of shaping and growing a democracy, would be interested in farming up the political parties to grow them beyond individuals, to be formidable parties that can take Uganda's political agenda forward.
True. That was the purpose for which we set up a platform called Forum for Democratic Change, so that we could give the people of Uganda what they had never achieved: democratic change. That is why that party was called Forum for Democratic Change. Because what we were responding to is that this country has never changed leadership through the ballot, and still hasn't. So then the attack on the party through its leaders was to dismantle it and not give Ugandans that opportunity to achieve that. They were internal issues, but also they were external issues. Now let me deal with the internal issues. The biggest internal issue was leadership within parliament. What failed multipartyism in the 60s was because the leader of the party was not the leader of the party in parliament, at the heart, at the center of politics, which is parliament. And so 2 power centers then were created at the party level and parliamentary level. And of course, that is the first place where a crisis begins, because then everybody begins to believe that they're the leader. And the understanding of who leads becomes fuzzy. But yes, we should have learned the lessons from the Democratic Party in the 1960s, how its entire membership crossed to UPC. Now, that also was faced with managing individual ambitions. I remember at the time, there were questions being asked to our leader, the retired Colonel, Dr. Kizza Besigye, that what did you bring on the table? We have no leaders from your part of the region, and therefore you're not legitimate. They started to question his legitimacy. And so the dividing line between those that had made it in parliament believed that the leadership was parliamentary, not national. And so tensions began to grow. And that hasn't been fixed yet. The leader of the party should lead it in parliament as well. But for as long as we have this kind of structure of parties, because we have a presidential system working a hybrid with the parliamentary system. Now, a president who hasn't become the president has no way of engaging with the politics that is in the way it is structured now. So you have a person who has run for presidency and garnered 3 million votes, 5 million votes, not having any activity within the body politics of a country. And then you have a person that won a seat with 3,000 votes, maybe with 40,000 votes, leading and causing tension within the party and the parliamentary system. Yeah. And so that is the first failure, structural failure that we face in Uganda, not just to the Forum for Democratic Change or any other party, but it's an inbuilt mechanism of failure, which we must fix.
Okay, interesting. So within that, I think the epitome of that was also, the issue of money exchanging hands at the peak of the Forum for Democratic Change crisis. We all remember that really.
It was the saddest part of our history.
It was really sad.
It was ugly. It was.
Leaders attack each other.
Yes.
Before we knew it, they split. The PFF was born. Then we went to the DP. President Museveni brought the DP president, Norbert Mao, on the dinner table. He's now our Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs. A party that is supposed to be in opposition is also in a serving government. We know what happened to UPC. Betty Amongin, given a position as a minister. And somehow we know what, the efforts to also dismantle the National Unity Platform. It sounds like the opposition everything is beginning to fit in very perfectly to what the president had imagined of lack of an opposition by 2026.
It is inbuilt. It is plotted, it's planned, it is implemented. And so, a country that suffers from institutional failure, political institutional failure, is not a secure country. And this is what has befallen us. So every effort is to pick up the pieces and try to build a new platform all the time. And this eats you up and eats the people's lives, because we are not a stable political entity as a country, even as political parties. And this is inbuilt. This is plotted. This is planned. It's planned to fail. It's not news. And that's why there's no effort to correct that. Because you are bamboozled by numbers who do not see, who want to keep the country in this situation. So it's not a homemade per se. It is a mixture, a bad mix of political manipulation and emasculation, which is at play. We need to correct this, because no country lives in this kind of, or thrives in this kind of instability.
Correct.
Yeah, it doesn't work for the whole country. It may work for NRM temporarily, but in building a nation, it is a total failure.
I agree with you, because for democracy and multi-party democracy to really thrive, there is need that you have a strong party system that competes against each other. Imagine
and provides competing policies
exactly
that people choose from.
But let me get it home. Forum for Democratic Change, 2 parties have now been birthed out of the FDC.
Yes.
You know, there's Mugisha Muntu's Alliance for National Transformation.
Yes.
Then we have Besige's PFF now.
Yes.
And this further week, that division, keep dividing.
For me, I don't see it as dividing. I see it as filtering.
Because people have different agendas.
Yes, and you're able to tell that time has filtered these agendas.
But
time
where does that leave this thing called the opposition? Even now as we get into elections, think about it. The electorate is going to be divided.
Yes.
We're going into an election.
Yes.
As the opposition, you're competing with the NRM, but you're going in as PFF, FDC, and National Unity Platform, JEMA. You're having all these DP, UPC, all of these people. The electorate then are divided. And
they are divided on what basis? A policy basis? Is it a policy basis they are going to be divided on? Is it on a personality basis they are going to be divided on? A gender basis that they are going to be divided on? You must interrogate what is going to be the game changer. What is the underbelly? What is the underlying discontent? And who gives the biggest response to it?
And you see, for me, you already answered it because you talked about failing to grow parties that are beyond their founding fathers. Because honestly, if these
political progression, President Museveni has remained at the top for too long that there's no political progression anywhere. There's a traffic jam of political leadership. There's a stalemate. And so there's no motion. And everybody is stuck in one place. So how do you unravel that? You see the ministers whose names are written on every ministry, that are written on chairs that they occupy, because there is no political motion. There is no space that has been created outside politics where people with political interests can engage. So the jam has caused us a stalemate. An entire country is at a standstill. The country is now in a discussion of transition, and the country is in discussion of a succession. This is what befalls any organization that does not move beyond its present structure, its present state of being. And so it is a national disaster. It's a national issue. It is not a party issue no more. That is why it is impacting all of us in whichever party you are, even the non-party people. It's impacting even the so-called biggest party, the NRM. It doesn't know whether it's now PLU or NRM. It has introduced into itself, into its internal dynamics, because it has been poorly organized internally. It has also been a manipulated party, emasculated party, a party not in the form of a party, but a movement. So there's the way you organize a movement and the way you organize a party are different. The dynamics are different. And because it's caught up in this dichotomy, it can't move. It is stuck, and therefore it must eat itself before it eats the rest of us. Or it can do it even simultaneously, as you see things happen.
But now, even you are supposed to fight it. You're also eating each other.
No, listen. I'm not supposed to fight. I don't even want to fight. I want to use my brain to grow a political environment in which we thrive. So I don't have to fight. No. When I don't agree with you, it's just right that I move on and form something else.
You fragmented the electorate.
Listen, the electorate needs to judge us using another pair of glasses. What do we represent? What do we represent? What does Salaam Musumba and colleagues represent? Profile them. Who are they? And what do they stand for? Because if you stand for nothing, you fall for anything.
But even wouldn't those be fixed within that, that
you
political
see,
party?
when you fail to fix things, don't spend so much time blaming yourself, because it's no good.
Honorable Salaam Musumba, we're going into an election with all a fragmented opposition, each of you presenting candidates to go for different positions. Where does that leave you?
There are so many other ways of working together, and all those ways are being examined within the ambit of the Constitution and the legal process. And so a coalition is not possible in this country. It is not possible. It is not registered. It is part of the legal impediments that is inbuilt within the law to avoid parties to come together for an electoral unity.
And you're being unfair because
I'm being honest to you.
You're pushing the blame away
You
from
see,
yourselves
it is legal because we could choose to team up with Ant, with Noop.
And that's okay. Who has refused you to team up?
It doesn't work.
Why?
In this country.
I think it's a failure.
Legal. No, it's not. It's a legal impediment.
How?
Go and read the law. The law will not give you what Kenya gives, that they can put as Mio as a running, as a coalition that is going to run for election, and you change that coalition the next time. In here, it is not.
So what is that legal impediment you're saying that has failed the opposition?
I'm not able to quote it right now,
yeah.
But these are issues that we have examined and we continue to examine.
If
that option exists, we are also evaluating it.
And history can teach us what happened when opposition political parties had thought of uniting and presenting a formidable force against the NRM at that time. But all those efforts came crumbling down.
That option is
because of intrigue and selfishness.
I'll tell you, we don't even have the luxury anymore of selfishness. It's not on the table. That is a luxury that Uganda cannot afford. And so every political actor is working full throttle to see how do we do this. And I want to tell you that we are in discussions with Conservative Party, with ANT, Alliance for National Transformation, with NUP, and with the Freedom Party, the People's Front for Freedom. So you can count on us, the 4. And Gemma, you can count on us, the 5, that we are discussing how best to respond to the Ugandans' desperate need to offer a solution to the present political stalemate.
That's the same that happened back in 2016.
Yes.
It failed.
2021.
It also failed.
It did.
What gives you hope that this time it's going to work?
Because we have all gone through these teething problems. We have all looked ourselves in the mirror and said, listen, the country needs help. The country needs to complete the liberation struggle. The country needs a fresh understanding of how to go beyond the present threats. And the present threat is succession. It's not even transition. The present threat is succession. The plot for presidential succession. It's a big threat to all of us as a country.
And let's keep it within the opposition.
Yeah.
One of the things that has failed in the previous past, I had an opportunity of covering politics for quite a while, is working out a mechanism that is going to facilitate the unified opposition. And it usually breaks at some point.
You see, everybody believes they're the best, and they should. But when you look at what needs to be done to repair this country, there are people who are talented differently. The top, the middle, and the bottom. The bottom is unified. The middle is stampeding on itself and better than the other. And the top is also suffering from ego. Me, myself, and I. And so we have to work through all these things. And we are ready to.
Are you hopeful that you will? I mean, because the time is far gone. We are into March.
You see,
and conversations around a
they've
unified
been ongoing.
opposition.
They've been ongoing, and they were in advanced stage, and that's partly the reason why Dr. Besigye had to be kidnapped, so that you can stall the conversation.
So, Honorable Salaam Musumba, on this show, you're saying there are ongoing conversations to present a unified opposition as we get into the elections. And that would require coming up with a mechanism.
The mechanism is already, there's a blueprint to deal with. And now what needs to be dealt with are the egos, the different egos of people. It's either me or nobody.
And that's where everything came.
And that's where it collapses.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
so
it collapses. But I am, personally, I'm very hopeful because I've been part of all these processes with you. And this time I'm very hopeful, not because people desire it as their first choice, but the threat that we all face, an existential threat that we all face. This is what is the biggest hope to see that this thing works.
Okay. So if you're coming to the negotiating table, the Honorable Salaam Musumba, you must bring something to the negotiating table, especially to have a formidable unified opposition. Yes. What does PFF bring to the negotiating table? As a new political party?
It's just a new name. We people that are seasoned, that are knowledgeable, that are statesmen and stateswomen, who are undoubtable, tamper-proof, bulletproof, proven over the years.
Coming with a vehicle
as competent. Yes, that is the political platform we come with. And this is what we bring on the table. We bring knowledge, we bring expertise, we bring longevity, we bring stability to the table. That's the biggest asset we have.
The politics of this country is shaped by political parties partly. Have you done nationwide consultations, nationwide mobilization to bring these numbers on the negotiating table for you to say, this is what we're coming with?
Yes. I'll look you straight in the eye and say, yes, it does not have to be this loud thing you're used to, but we are present everywhere, on every village, in every home. And what brings us there is what we have endured as political actors. Without being broken, we have endured. We are resilient. We are versatile. And that is the versatility we bring to the table. We are dependable any day, any night. That's why you have asked me to be here.
And yet
because I bring with me a history of resilience, a history of stateswomanship and stewardship, that we are looking for a country that works for all of us. I tell you, we have options on the table. That's why we are not panicking. Are you not wondering why we are so peaceful? Because we have options. If we don't get registration in time, we have option 2 and option 3. And all those options are well known to all of us, the promoters. We will work with another political entity that is available. NUP is available, ANT is available, CP is available. Okay? We could also go into politics as individuals, as independents. That option is open to us. So the option that will give us the biggest political leverage is the one we will take. We are not lost for options. So don't tell us about a timetable. A timetable for liberating this country, the timetable we are pursuing. And we must pursue it with people that are reliable, that are dependable. You don't want to get to government and start breaking up. We must learn from our history, our contemporary history, so that we know. Because political processes are driven by people. So people are so important in this process. And that's the people we are gathering to ourselves for that big job.
Are you hopeful that, again, I keep coming back to this because you're looking at it as one of the vehicles that could deliver victory in an election. We saw, for example, recently that PFF interim president Elias Sukago campaigning for NUP's candidate Luimba's Nalukola in the Kawempe by-election. Was that a sign really of strategic collaboration with NUP, or merely just a gesture of gratitude for,
No, you people need to understand. The seat in Kawempe was a NUP seat. True or false?
It was true.
It
was
is true.
occupied by the
Yes.
Honorable
And
Muhammad
us,
Sidi.
we are not registered as a party yet. And so we cannot provide an official candidate. The best option available to us is to collaborate with the people we are plotting and planning to collaborate with. Strategic engagement.
So Nalukola's win will be a PFF win.
It will be a win for us, yes. If NUP can maintain the seat, it will be a win for all of us because we need to stabilize politics. We must stabilize this politics. I mean, if you have 6 candidates, of course only one will win.
Do you envision a day when Dr. Kizza Besigye will rally behind Robert Kyagulanyi to contest in a presidential election?
Yes, I do.
Why?
Because I know the effort to liberate this country before it sinks, before the succession plot becomes irreversible, calls for us to work together. And if that is what is required, yes, it will happen.
Those are really, really interesting conversations. Will you return to politics in 2026 under PFF?
I've never left politics.
Yeah, no, as a member of parliament.
Never.
Okay, let me rephrase this.
Yes.
Honorable Salaam Musumba,
Yes.
are you coming back to run for member of parliament under the platform, the People's Front for Freedom?
Yes, I will. I will, my dear. Because you see, you cannot leave a vacuum, a political vacuum, in pursuing what you have pursued for the last so many years. And for as long as I have breath in me and the passion to conclude what we began, I am available. I'm going to be deployed because under PFF, it is deployment. We want to correct the so many issues that have brought us into this abyss, political abyss. We would want now to be able to deploy people to serve in the capacity we believe they are best in. And so when I'm deployed, as I am ready for deployment, I'm available.
It's interesting. And you've been in the thick of politics in the East for quite a while.
Yes.
Are you going for woman member of parliament or constituency member of parliament?
All those are available to me. And as I've told you, I'll be deployed. I'll be deployed where they think I'll serve best. So I can be deployed in 2 capacities: as a deterrent.
What do you mean?
As a deterrent, because you see, there's so many issues at play that at times you need to stop somebody from being declared unopposed.
Okay.
And so you must be a deterrent. I accept that role.
Even when you know you may not.
Yes, as a deterrent, because it's a weapon, a political weapon.
Honorable Salam Musumba, what inspires you? You've been in the thick of politics. Sometimes you've won, sometimes you've lost.
Yes.
But you keep in there. As a woman, what really inspires you?
Because I'm not a fraud. I'm not a political fraud. I mean everything I say, and I say whatever I mean. I am so passionate about transforming this country. And whenever I make myself available to serve, I do. With a title and without a title. You know, we are two kinds of politicians. There are politicians that only operate when they have a title. Without a title, they are dead and done. I am that two politicians that even without an official title, I'm able to work. And I work perfectly well. And so my passion drives me. My anger drives me because I'm angry at how we can be failed as a society. Why would we be failed as a society? With all the tools available to us, with all the human resource available to us, why do we fail? You know, you can listen to the international news and hear China wants to excel at AI. And what are we talking about? We, in this sphere, political sphere, we are talking about hanging people. We will hang AIIJ. This is what preoccupies us, and that maddens me. We should be talking about advancing this country so that our young people have opportunities. But the stranglehold on us politically cannot allow us. So that wakes me up every morning to do something about it.
So let me just ask you, as we get into these elections, what do you see?
I see trouble, and you can safely see that a snippet in Kawempe North. That is now going to be deployed. That's the preparations that have been happening. It's the military. It's now a military exercise. Elections now are a military thing. So every asset, military, intelligence, legal court will all be thrown at the innocent Ugandans that are seated out there, hoping that their voices will matter. And that's the deep end we are going to get into. You see, we have worked all these years to avert this. That is why we put in the Constitution term limits. That's why we put in the Constitution age limit. And that's why every effort at amending the Constitution has been brutal, military. So we have failed in all these efforts to avert a catastrophe. The catastrophe is looking straight in our faces now, because we have a young population that is restless, that is tired, that wants change, that even a protracted war of 5 years in Luwero, that promise that never again will we ever go back, it was just a joke.
The opportunity that the elections present us.
There's no opportunity that elections present to us. It is a timeline. It is choreographed so that it is talking to the international community.
Then why are you going to participate?
We will participate in it because we must use it as a weapon for liberation.
Liberation, what do you mean?
We must liberate ourselves. We do not understand that we are a captured state, captured by the military.
Which other way except through the ballot?
Article 3 of the Constitution says use any means available to you. And the means available to us for the starters is the election program, because that is when people are politically conscious. They hope for change, which change will be robbed from them.
So what are you going to do about it?
Something.
As PFF?
We'll do something about it. We'll organize, we'll talk, we will prepare the community to understand that we cannot have more of the same of this failure. Because it's not working. It's not securing us. It's not securing our population. It is not growing our population. The only thing that is growing in this country is poverty. Double digit. It's the only successful transaction. Poverty.
Honorable Musumba, one would say that perhaps consider a peaceful election as a format of transfer of power through coming up with a strong...
How can you have a peaceful election when everything has been pitted against you? You have thugs. Now, Christopher Damulira has taken charge and weaponized the ghetto youth. Strangulation of political processes, strangulation, manipulation of populations against each other. And this is what Christopher Damulira and others are doing successfully. Initially, it was Kale Kaihura. This is what Operation Wars Creation, all the military outfit out there, all the intelligence network, FISO, village, or have family intelligence office. We have built a flammable network. Because listen, I don't have another life. This is my life, and I want to live peacefully. But that option too has been taken away, robbed away from us. Because look at what is happening. We are expecting, when you have a political entity that has been in power for 4 decades, it means it has some entrenched things that make transition difficult. That's why a transition must be negotiated. Look in our history, look at Ghana and the Rawlings and all that. It has to be negotiated. Look at Kenya. A transition was negotiated. What is happening to us? We were given to think that Betty Amongi was part of the transition that was being negotiated. UPC, voice in cabinet. We thought that Honorable Mao is part of that transition and that negotiation of a transition. DP in government. Bring all the things that need to be talked about, put them on the table, and let's begin to talk. What do you see?
But Honorable Musumba, isn't it going to be your responsibility as one of the key leaders within this country to ease the tensions and advocate for peace through this election?
Ease the tensions and then what? So when the tension is eased, then what? Resources are shared equitably. Development happens equitably. Huh? Appointments happen equitably. And then what? Because there must be political goodies that come from these processes we are pursuing. And they're none, sir. What you see is a coup of a succession. I wish we had. You see, there's a missing cohort in our politics, in our society. And that is the class of elders that speak as statesmen and stateswomen. And that's why I loved Sir Richard Kijuka at the launch of their colleague, Elia Kategaya's book. And says what everybody fears to say. And says, sir, we are available as your colleagues to chart a different path and stop what I'm talking about. You think he spoke because he's sure what is going to happen? He knows the palpable anger out there. It doesn't matter how many security guys you throw at them, how many terrorists you groom, it will come to pass. You can postpone a problem, but that's not the response. We need to solve the problem while we can. And that problem is called transition, democratic change. Changing a government without breaking the plates, the pans and plates and everything. Let me tell you, under Byabakama, it can't happen. How does it happen? You're expecting too much.
Let's talk about electoral reforms. Do you see them coming?
From whom?
Because part of reshaping our electoral commission would be to look at, or our electoral processes would be to rethink electoral reforms. As Norbert Mao, who was,
Who will implement those reforms?
Firstly, let's have them.
No. Every effort is to break every constitutional safeguard we put in place. You cannot break every safeguard and then jump on the other side and say, let us make it safe. The Constitution was supposed to make it safe. I mean, if you can break a constitution, if you can amend a constitution to serve your interest as a person, one, what are the other laws? Don't expect too much out of nothing.
Honorable Salaam Musumba, my last question is, as we get into these elections, I wanted us to, as a woman, I wanted us to also focus on just one or two questions for women as we get into elections.
Yes.
The voice and place of women in these elections.
This is not our place, especially with the vicious arm of the state and using all sorts of unknown security outfits that you see on the street, Chiboko Squad, Black Mambas, now Jat, Ghetto Boys, all those, all being commanded by Christopher Damlina, a military guy in police uniform. My brother, this is not an accident. It's not an accident. I have personally suffered a lot of state terror. You know, the by-elections and elections that have gone through. And what is new is that it has just now been consolidated for public purview. You know, people used to think that something was wrong with some of us because we were in FDC, we were the opposition. Something was wrong. But I want us to go back in history and look at the political journey of the NRM and NRA, starting from Luwero, look at Acholi, the 20-year war, beat them into submission. The terror train has gone round back to Uganda, back to Central. What is the legacy of what we are talking about? How do we fix Uganda? How do we mend Uganda? How do we recover lost time, lost opportunity? How do we deal with betrayal? I believe Dr. Besigye is betrayed. He was part of the so-called liberation force. Today, he's in Luzera, maximum prison, without a charge sheet that you can speak about. Kidnapped from Kenya. So, I don't know why you would want a good story out of a bad narrative, a good conclusion out of a bad narrative. I mean, this is a horror story that I'm telling to myself and telling to the country. And people live this way all the time. The land grabbing is on the increase. Corruption is on the increase. Oh.
Honorable Salaam Musumba, thank you for speaking to us.
Thank you.
It's been really a very hard one. But I hope you pick a thing or two. I'm Solomon Serwanjja. Thanks for watching. This is The Hard Questions.